All right. Welcome, everybody. Good evening. I'm sorry I'm a little bit late. Basically, I was trying to do the live from my laptop. That did not work. So I'm going to do it from my phone. How are you doing? I hope you are staying safe and keeping all the CDC guidelines and keeping the faith. That's the most important one. All right. So, until I wait for everybody to come in, I will share this on my page too. All right. Hi, everybody. I wave. Hey, hey. All right. Now, I will share it. All right. I hope everybody's doing good. Tonight we're going to talk about something very, very important. And it is a continuation to our Tanya class every Wednesday night. But it will be unique because it's definitely going to talk about how to navigate our feelings. How to know. Okay, so let's begin. One thing is awesome about this live Facebook Live is that you don't know what I'm wearing. I could be wearing pajamas on the bottom. You'll never know. All right. Hi Miley. Hi Mike. Hi Miley. Hi Rena. All right. All right. So let's begin. So, not everybody has followed the entire course. I just want to give you a very brief overview. What is the Tanya and what does it come to teach us? Why is it so fundamental? So first of all, the Tanya is the base of the entire Hasidic philosophy. It was written and more published in the 1796, and it is the fundamental book of Chabad philosophy. Now, the author is the Alter Rebbe, and basically the purpose of this book was to teach people, to give a fresh perspective on Judaism, to show you how Judaism is the entire structure of Judaism is, instead of looking at it as I do this for God, God does this for me, it's a relationship between me and God. It's like God and I, or it's like a husband and wife, or between friends, between however you want to define that relationship. And once you look at everything in Judaism as a relationship, it's meaningful, it's passionate, it's real, it's honest, and that's why Chabad is so successful. And I would love to share with you some of the incredible messages of the Tanya. So the Tanya, the first step in a relationship, this is the first thing they tell you before you start dating, is you have to know yourself. You have to know who you are in order to know who you need with you, right? Once you know who you are, you know what you need, then you know what to look for in a marriage. Now, so 1 second, I'm going to share it. See if I can okay, never mind. All right. So let's begin. So there's a story of the fourth Chabad Rebbe. He said, you can't fool other people, because at the end of the day, people are going to find out. You can't fool God, because God knows everything. So the only one you can fool, really, is yourself. And what's the point of fooling a fool? That was his line, his quote. And the truth is, we know for ourselves that, it's a big topic in modern times. The topic of self-esteem, self-respect, and all these things. The base behind self-esteem, why is it so important, is because so many of us have a bad. We think we're less than what we really are, and sometimes we think we're more than what we are. But more often is that we think we're less than what we really are, and the problem of that is it's really an illusion. We think we're less. So the Tanya is a lot about honesty. It's about being honest with yourself. And there's a very important quote by the Rebbe in one of his very famous books. It says, it's very important to know yourself. You have to really know your shortcomings, your problems, your challenges, but also you have to know what's good about you, your potential. So right now we're in Tanya, we're finding ourselves in chapter 13. We're starting chapter 13. So the Tanya, we said, is the whole relationship story. It's look at Judaism as a relationship. And therefore, like we said, in a relationship you have to know yourself. So the Tanya begins with telling us, who are we? And the first secret is that we are two souls. So in some way, spiritually, we have, split personality disorder. It's spiritually speaking. The Tanya says we have two souls. Now, we all heard about the evil inclination, the good inclination when we were kids. Our parents hoped when they would say, "Oh, don't listen to your evil inclination," that you would, do the right thing. But really, the Tanya says it's much deeper. It's two souls, two identities inside of you. One soul is called the natural soul. It's the soul that wants to do everything that's self-interested. Everything is about the self. So it doesn't necessarily mean it's evil, but the self can definitely lead you to evil, bad places. And on the other hand, we have the godly soul. The godly soul is all about God, and therefore it's all about the mission. The godly soul is only interested in my mission. If it's not about my mission, I'm not interested. So the Tanya begins with telling us this. Every human being, every Jew, has these two identities. Now, of course, we're all different. So what are the results? What is the difference between these two identities? What is okay? I have these two identities inside of me. How do they come out? How do I know? How do they operate? So the Tanya explains that we all have both of the souls have two different ways of thinking, ideas, how they process things, and the emotions. Have you ever seen that image of the Kabbalah of all the different circles? So in the Kabbalah, there's the three top ones are the intellect, the ideas, and the 7 bottom ones are the emotions. So the godly soul and the animal soul, the natural soul, have completely two different ways of thinking about things, ideas, the intellect, and completely different ways how they react to things, emotions. Okay, so they both have. The godly soul is always going to think and process things and react to things if it's about my mission. It's all about my mission. The natural soul is always going to process things and react to things in the way it's all about the self, in the way it's going to help myself. Now, so what's the fight? What's the struggle between the godly soul and the animal soul? The struggle is that both the godly soul and the natural soul have only one way of expressing themselves. So ideas and emotions and feelings are inside of you. How do you express yourself? The Tanya explains, it's called the garments, it's called thought, speech, and action. That's how you express what's inside. What's the problem? You have the godly soul, the way it operates, thinks, and reacts emotionally. You have the natural soul, how it thinks, it processes things and reacts. The problem is, you only have one way to express yourself. How you're going to think, how you're going to speak, how you're going to act. Are you going to think with the natural soul's processing system? That's the big question. Hi, Elise. So now the Tanya explains what is the difference between people. So we all know there's righteous people. Righteous people doesn't mean people that do good things, because if that's the case, then most of the world is good people. But the Tanya goes into the essence of everything. It's not just what it looks from outside, the behavior. A righteous person is a person that the godly soul rules. If the godly soul wins the war, then you know that person is a righteous person. Examples, Moses. Moses was only guided and inspired and motivated by his godly soul. Everything he did was about his mission. Nothing else. Now, the natural soul is guided by its instinct, by its self-interest, self-actualization. Now, what happens if your natural soul wins the war? Then you're called a Rasha. You sin, you make mistakes, because your natural soul wins that particular battle. The Tanya's chidush, the Tanya's novelty, and the Tanya's unique approach is that there is not only two people, there's the righteous and the sinner, there is also the person in between. And the Tanya is called the book of the Beinonim, the book for strugglers. Now, what is the difference between the righteous person, the struggler, the one in the middle, and the person that sins, that make mistakes? The difference is that the Beinoni, outside, which means his thought, speech, and action, he can control them no problem. Not no problem, it's not easy. It's very hard. Imagine to always be on top. It takes incredible discipline, self-discipline, to always watch what you're saying, what you think, what you say. And of course, there's a lot more to talk about this, but we spoke about this last week. And if you're more interested in learning in depth the Tanya, you can definitely text me and I'll tell you more about it. But for the purpose of this class, we're talking about the Beinoni. The Beinoni, outside, which means the way he expresses himself, thought, speech, and action, he looks like the tzaddik. He never sins, he never makes a mistake. Mwah, perfect. What's the difference? Inside, what's going on inside the Beinoni is called the struggler. The Beinoni struggles the same way like the Rasha. He struggles like the Rasha. No difference. He struggles. And that's the chidush. That's what's special about the Beinoni. The Beinoni, on one hand, outside, he looks perfect. But he's fighting inside. He's struggling inside. Which means he has feelings. He has desires. He has demons inside. But and this is what we spoke about a few weeks ago, you are not what you feel. Very often, can you hear me? Can you hear me now, Rina? Is anybody having problems hearing me? Alright, I hope everybody can hear me. Can anybody hear me? Can anybody answer? Hello? Anybody? Can anybody hear me? Yes, I can hear just fine. Okay, perfect. All right. Okay, perfect. All right. So let's continue. Now, okay, perfect. So let's get into this. So the Beinoni, the Tanya says that okay, awesome. So the Tanya says, listen to this. The Beinoni is we all have the potential to be Beinonim, which means we have a potential to differentiate between your feeling inside and how you express it outside. If I feel terrible inside, it's not a sin. If I feel terrible inside, if I feel like, oh, I have this desire, I want to eat something I can't eat. Very often we think, oh, I have this feeling inside, I'm so bad. And then you act on it. You say, oh, you speak about it, and you think about it, and then you do it. Why? Because you said, oh, I feel bad. I feel terrible, therefore I'm bad. And therefore, what's the difference if I feel bad or I do bad? But the Beinoni, he's the proof that you're not what you feel. You can be feeling terrible inside, struggling inside, and yet you have the power not to act on it and not to speak about it. All right, so that's who the Beinoni. That is the model that the Tanya presents. Now we're going to explain a different outlook on the Beinoni, on the difference between the Beinoni, the Tzaddik, and the Rasha. And of course, we all live lives with a lot of dilemmas. Now, dilemmas can be very real dilemmas, like who should I marry? Where should I work? Where should I live? And all these very important dilemmas that we have in life. And then, really, life presents many, detailed small dilemmas, like, what should I eat this morning? Should I, we're in California, should I go to Trader Joe's? What time should I go to Trader Joe's? Should I go in Gelson's? It's more expensive, but nobody's there. All these small dilemmas. So, I ask you, when you have a dilemma, what do you do? How do you answer a dilemma? Let's say an example. Should I go to Trader Joe's? Maybe it's going to be packed. Maybe it's not going to be packed. How do you answer a dilemma? Whether small or big. Any offers? It's all free. Okay, so the Tanya says, I guess it takes a few minutes, a few seconds. So sometimes we can answer dilemmas by thinking, let's say, very good example. When you buy an item on Amazon, right? So what's a big deal about reviews? Because you want to know how good this item is, what people say about it, is it reliable, is it good quality, all these different things. So that's how you answer a dilemma. So the Tanya says, it's very important whenever we have a dilemma, right? Time and convenient, very good, Miley. Yeah. How much time is going to take, how convenient it is, right? So the Tanya says that the best way to resolve a dilemma is to know where the different sides are coming from. Right? Use common sense. That's a good way, yeah. So these are very human dilemmas. So then we can think about what's more convenient, use common sense, you try it, and then maybe you return it if it doesn't work out. But there's a lot of dilemmas in our life that it's not so human, and really it's a matter of, okay, what's the right thing to do? And that's where the dilemma, where it's so important to dissect and understand where my godly soul, when my godly soul says, you should do this, and when my animal soul and natural soul says you should do this. And sometimes it's very easy to know what's the right thing to do. If you're about to do something stupid, then of course, your brain says, or your godly soul says, do the right thing, and the natural soul says, do what's more convenient, do what's easier, do what's more pleasurable. So that's not a big question. It's obvious. The big question is when it's a very gray area. That's when you need to know where our ideas are coming from. Because very often, our natural soul, sometimes we think that our natural soul means, this demon that only wants the good. The natural soul can be very refined, very polite, very, very caring. But really, if you peel off and look deeper, you're going to realize that at its core, it's all about the self. And I'll give you a perfect example. Now, let's say right now I'm wearing a shirt that's very tight. Now, why is my shirt tight? Because I like to eat cake. Now, let's say I want to eat cake. What are the two sides that are telling me, should I eat cake or shouldn't I eat cake? Let's put it this way. Why should I eat cake? Because it tastes good. It feels good. I like it on my taste buds. It just feels good. It makes me feel good, okay? Okay. That's why I should eat cake. Why shouldn't I eat cake? Because it's healthier not to eat cake. It's not very healthy. It's important to think on the long term, not just on the short term. Alright. Now, you might think, eat the cake. The desire to eat the cake, that's coming from the natural soul. And you might think, not to eat the cake and think long term is coming from the godly soul. Perhaps, not eating the cake because you're thinking long term, you want to be healthier, you want to live a happier life, a more healthy, you want to have the right priorities. Who says that's about the godly soul? It's definitely a much more refined way of living, but who says that's the godly soul? It could be that thinking long term, it's still based on it's at the core, it's still about myself. I want to feel good. So I can feel good in the short term, I can feel good in the long term, but it's still about me. That's the hard juggle of understanding between the natural soul and godly soul. The godly soul is not just about the right thing to do. The godly soul is about, this is the key. Do I do what I need, or am I about all of what I need, or what am I needed for? When I decide something, do I decide based on what I need, or do I decide based on what I'm needed for? And then you can take it, of course we're going to talk about, look at the bigger picture. But it's not just about the bigger picture. It's about the biggest picture, which is God. Right? If you think about it, right now, all of us, we're all under the world outlook. So we look at the coronavirus, we look at news, we look at WhatsApp, we look at Facebook, and we're inundated by news and negativity here, and something funny over here, positive here, negative here. But God is beyond, even though He's with us, but He sees beyond. So He sees the bigger picture. He sees what's going to be beyond, coronavirus. What are you needed for? You are needed, Rena, that's a good question. We are all needed to bring God invite God into your life. Now, all of you have very different lives. You come from different families, different, upbringings, different cultures, different countries. I come from Italy. We all have very different experiences and different acquaintances, different jobs, different everything is different. So the way God made you uniquely you, God wants you to bring him into your life, everywhere into your life. Everywhere. Think about it. There's a beautiful right. So it's very important also, you bring a very good point, Elise. We shouldn't think that living with a godly soul means you negate the body. That's in the olden days, 500 years ago. Nowadays, the Rebbe is very, very, very strong about this. The Rebbe says that the living with the godly soul means living in harmony. We're meant to live in harmony between the godly and the natural soul. And therefore, we need the natural soul to do everything, to enjoy life, to have a good life, to have everything you need. But at the same time, like you're saying, you keep your body healthy because your body has your soul inside. Like there's a very famous quote that a small hole in your body is a big hole in the soul. So of course, if your motivation to stay healthy, it's so your soul, you can serve God and be a happier person and be more giving, then that means bringing God into your life. Then when you are jogging, maybe not right now, jogging to your house, when you're jogging into your house, you are bringing God. It's like you're reading the Torah. You're bringing God into your life. And how amazing is that? You can serve God while jogging. And I heard this something, I want to tell you the story because it's beautiful. Could be you heard it before. But, right now the shul is closed. Shuls almost all over the world are closed. So people are asking, how is it possible that God is not letting us serve him in the best way possible? How is God allowing us not to have a minyan, not to read the Torah, not to say Kaddish, not to say Amen? How is it possible? It's a beautiful story. This rabbi was actually his yahrzeit yesterday. Rabbi Elimelech Milizhensk and Rabbi Zusha, his brother, they were collecting money for their operations, and something happened and people got really mad. Bottom line, what happened was that all the beggars from that specific village, they were all put in prison. Now, they, of course, people didn't know that they weren't only beggars, they were really holy people, but they were imprisoned. Now, in prison, it was, Ukraine, so you can imagine that the prisons were not disinfected for coronavirus. They were very dirty, and to say the least, there was a lot of, dirty and smelly stuff going around. And there's a Jewish law that says that you can't pray in a place where there's excrements. I don't know how you say it, poop. Very simply, there was, feces. I don't know how you say it in English. And so they couldn't pray. So one of their brothers started crying. He said, I want to pray. I want to pray to God. I want to connect to God, but there's poop in here. I can't. So he started crying. He was so bothered and was so hurt that he couldn't pray to God. And the other brother said, my dear brother, you're not getting it. The same God that wants you to pray, he's the same God that's telling you that when you can't pray because of a certain circumstance, when there is something smelly in around the area, then the same God that told you to pray, he's the same God that's telling you not to pray. So by not praying, you're doing what God wants. And the moment he got it, he said, wow, by not praying, I'm doing what God wants. And they started dancing. They were so happy because they were able to do what God wants. It's not about, because if a prayer is about what I want to do, what I feel good about doing, then that's not necessarily coming from the godly soul. But if it's about God, if it's about my mission, Right now, our mission is not to go to Minyan. Right now, our mission is to stay safe, to stay at home, to stay with our family, to stay connected. That's our job. Right now, this is our mission. So I just wanted to say that story. It's beautiful. Alright, so now let's talk about what are the two different, how do I know in the Beinoni, talking about the Beinoni, the struggler, how does he have the courage and the power and the strength to not give in to his thought, speech, and action? How does he block the feeling inside and not let it come out and speak or think about it and do something about it? So this is the answer. It says in the first chapter of the Tanya, it says that the difference between the tzaddik, Beinoni, the tzaddik, the righteous person, the struggler, and the sinner is that the tzaddik, only the godly soul, is the only judge. By the sinner, the rasha, the natural soul is not a judge. The natural soul is it's like a commander. It's like the ruler. By the struggler has both godly soul and natural soul judging him. Now, this is very key. The judge thing is very important here. Why? Because a judge, very different than a ruler, a king, let's say, the judge is just saying his opinion. The judge says, if you take this specific case, then this is what the judgment should be like. This is my opinion. So the godly soul, by the tzaddik, by the righteous person, only the godly soul has what to say. Because the tzaddik, like the Rebbe, Moses, they're only motivated. Who tells them what to do? They're only inspired by the godly soul. Everything about them is all about their mission. That's why when people come to the Rebbe, why are they inspired about their mission? They feel that they belong because the Rebbe inspires in them their godly soul. The Rebbe is like a walking godly soul. They look at the Rebbe, they're like, wow, I have a godly soul. I have a mission. I have purpose. That's why people were so inspired by the Rebbe. And by Moses the same. The sinner, he doesn't have the natural soul by the person that sins. The natural soul is not just giving a judgment, an opinion. By the natural soul, by the sinner, the person that sins, by the rasha, the natural soul rules. He tells him, do this. The Beinoni is the one that has two judges. Judges means they're not telling him, they're not ruling him. By the Beinoni, by the struggler, he has both the opinion of the godly soul, and at the same point, he has the opinion of the natural soul. And that is the difference between the tzaddik, the rasha, and the Beinoni. Again, the judge means not necessarily you have to do that. I'm just giving my opinion. Now, let's begin. I want to read the text. Beginning of chapter 13. Therewith will be understood the commentary of our sages that the Beinoni, the struggler people, are judged by both the good and evil natures. For it is written, when he stands at the right of the destitute to deliver him from the judges of his soul. Now it says basically in the Tehillim that God stands on the right of the poor, to deliver him from the judges of his soul. The Rebbe, he doesn't even focus on godly judge. The Rebbe, just by being, it's like when you meet a person that's such a good person, he inspires you to be good. The Rebbe his godly soul is so present, is so revealed, is so on fire, that when you met the Rebbe, you were like, what it reflected your godly soul. It's like a funny story. I remember when I was doing an MRI, I hurt myself. I was in Montreal. I went skiing. I hurt myself. Had to do an MRI. Now, what an MRI is, you know, that it's just a huge magnet that scans all your muscles. Now, at the time, I had braces behind my teeth, and these braces are made out of metal. So I realized this. Now you have to make sure that nothing in your body is made out of metal. For example, you can't have any nails inside your knees or whatever. And I remember I realized like a day before the operation or the MRI, I realized, oh my gosh, I have my teeth, I have braces, and I started freaking out because I was already imagining being on that MRI and my teeth flying off out of my, the metal, attracting my braces, and my, like being in an MRI, my teeth falling off. It was a few moments of a nightmare. But my point is, the Rebbe is like a walking godly soul, and that attracts your godly soul. That's why people were so inspired, so elevated by just by being in the presence of the Rebbe, because he reminded them and he invited and he inspired and sparked their godly soul. Now, sometimes we have so much klipot that it's hard to reach this enlightenment. So let's see what we're going to talk about now. It's going to be very interesting. So, judges is key. Note that they did not say ruled by both. It doesn't say, it says judges, both, two judges. It doesn't say ruled by both, God forbid, because where the evil nature gains any control and dominion over the small city, that's the body, even though, but temporarily, one is at such times deemed Russia. Now, the evil nature in the Beinoni, in the struggler, however, is no more than, for example, a magistrate or judge who gives his opinion on a point of law. Yet, it is not necessarily a final decision to be implemented indeed, for there's another magistrate or judge who is contesting this opinion. It is, therefore, necessary to arbitrate between the two, and the final verdict rests with the arbitrator. The same way, similarly, the evil nature states its opinion in the left part of the heart, which thence ascends to the brain for contemplation. Immediately, so this is basically how it works with the Beinoni. The center of the natural soul, because it's all about me, it's emotions. Emotions are subjective. It's how I feel about it. Do I like it? Do I want to stay away from it? The godly soul center is in the brain, because the brain is more objective. It's more, what's the right thing. It's not about me. So, what happens in the Beinoni is, let's say I feel the desire to badmouth someone, okay? So, poof, the natural soul comes with a desire and says, ooh, I love badmouthing that person. Let me do that. So that means that desire goes up to the brain, okay? That ascends to the brain. Immediately, it is challenged by the second judge, the divine soul in the brain, extending into the right part of the heart, the abode of the good nature. So before we talk about the final verdict, I want to tell you a beautiful story. The story goes, Reb Nachum Chernobyl, he was a great sage, great Rebbe, and one time a very wealthy person came in, and he gave him a large amount of money. He gave him, let's say, $300,000 at the time. And, okay, so he was very happy. The moment, a few minutes after this rich, wealthy person came by and gave the donation, this poor person comes in crying and he says, Rebbe, I need to make a wedding and I have so many debts and I just can't afford a wedding for my daughter right now. I don't know what to do. He says, how much do you need? He said, I need 300,000 rubles. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating, but it was a large sum. And Rabbi Nachum Chernobyl said, that's perfect. Someone just came in and gave me the exact amount that you need. He was, as he's about to give him the money, he says, 1 second. Is it a good thing to give him all the money to this guy and just, being done with it? Or maybe I can benefit more people by giving less, but to more people. And he's like, what's the right thing to do? Then he said, you know what? The moment I was bothered by if I shouldn't do this, I should do this. He said the first thought that I had was definitely the right one. So he gave the guy all the money. Now, this does not mean that whenever we have a dilemma, the first thing that we think of, it's the right thought, because Reb Nachum Chernobyl was a very holy guy, and therefore his initial thought, his initial reaction was the right thing to do. By us, probably our first reaction is probably going to be something more self-centered. So let's go on. Let's find out what is the right way to do. How do we decide what is the right thing to do? So last week we spoke about the fact that there's two ways to win. I mean, until now we're saying, if you know where things are coming from, then you should be able to do the right decision. I'll give you an example. Right now, I want to watch a soccer game. My wife needs me to change a diaper for the baby. Now, of course, there's not a question that my godly soul wants to do the right thing and help my wife and help in my kids' upbringing. It's very simple that my natural soul wants to watch a soccer game because I want to feel good. I like watching soccer, especially now that there's no soccer events going on. And yet, even though I know what the godly soul wants me to do, I know what's my mission, yet it's very hard to still, even though I know what should be the right decision, it's still very, very hard to actually do it, to actually follow the right decision. So, why is it so hard? And we spoke last week about the natural human trait, that is that the brain should, or the will of that's inside the brain should be able to dictate to the heart what to do. And yet, so many of us give in to the heart, and we give in to our desires and feelings. Why is that? The answer is because when does the will of the brain rule over the heart? When the brain is 100% convinced this is the right thing. And we all have very good examples in our life that we knew exactly what was the right thing, and there was no way for you to, move you away from what I knew was right. We all have had instances in our lives. I give you an example. If you're in the gym, think about it. Why don't they have these giant billboards of ice cream, the person drinking the Coca-Cola and all the drops coming down and the colors, ice cream and snacks. Why don't they have that in the gym? Because in the gym, people are focused on losing weight, on staying healthy, having the right priorities, doing right choices. So people are not going to give in to their desires and their whim. It's outside when we're already stressed out, then we have problems here, problem there, I'm not feeling well, I've had a bad day at work. Then you see the Coke, you're like, oh, I want Coke. That's how it works. So that's the reason why, even though the will in the brain should be able to dominate the heart, it's because very often the heart, for example, diet is a very good example. When do we fail our diet? when the heart convinces the brain, it's okay, one cookie. What's one cookie? I've eaten thousands of bags of cookies. What's about one cookie? It's not so terrible, right? That moment when your heart is not so convinced, when your brain is not, the will in the brain is not 100% fixed on it, then that's when the heart, so to speak, that's when the fight begins. When the brain is not going to win the fight against the heart. So now the question is, how do we, like you said also, we have so many layers that sometimes it's hard to reach, the awareness and the strength to do the right thing, even though you know what's the right thing to do. The answer is, okay, so in the struggle we have two judges, two people that give opinions. What do you choose? And the answer is, you choose the right thing. Who helps you is the third person, and that is God. God, and this is the key. The key is that God says, and this is what we spoke about 2 weeks ago, King Solomon's secret. King Solomon said that he understood that folly, stupidity over wisdom, the advantage of wisdom over stupidity is like the advantage of light into darkness. Now, I need the smartest man alive to tell me, the smartest man that ever lived, to tell me that wisdom is better than stupidity? What does it mean, like light over darkness? And the answer is like this. And this is incredibly important, especially in these Corona times. What King Solomon was saying is this. He said, what is wisdom and stupidity? Wisdom is true wisdom, which means the right thing to do, God, absolute morals. All these things have the advantage over all the negative stuff, like light over darkness. How does light fight darkness? There's no fight. The moment you put light in a dark room, the dark goes away. It's automatic. How much light do you need to defeat darkness? A little bit of light defeats a lot of darkness. Of course, more light, more darkness. So it's automatic. The same way King Solomon was telling us, you look around, you look at the news, you look on Facebook, you look on WhatsApp, all these things, and you see so much negativity. You see everybody is giving up. Everybody's panicking. And everybody, go after the negative stuff. But King Solomon said you should know, even though it seems like it seems like the negative wins in this world, it seems like the corona is taking over this world, you should know that truth, real truth, ultimate truth, eternal truth, and real and eternal meaning, which is Torah and God and everything that God stands for, all this stuff is like light over darkness. So yes, I understand. Yes, of course we have to listen to what the CDC says. Of course we have to listen. We're not going to go to Minyan, and this is what God wants. But the more Torah, the more truth, the more Hasidic philosophy, the more holy wisdom, the more light we bring into our life, the more automatically the negative stuff is going to go away. So the more goodness, and this is how, what Chabad La Costa, this is what we're doing. Bring more light into your life, and we're going to see. Think about this. People right now, Facebook is inundated with holiness. Facebook is inundated with Torah knowledge. Everybody's doing Facebook Lives in the whole world, every corner of the world. Has never been so much Torah in the cloud, in the media. This is what we need to do. We need to bring more light, and the light doesn't have to fight with the darkness. The light defeats the darkness automatically. Now, to finish off, I have another few minutes. I guess I'm going to finish. We're going to talk about the next topic the next time. I'm going to finish it with the lesson for our life. I'm going to read a few lines and then we're going to finish it. Okay, so the final verdict comes from the arbiter, the Holy One, blessed is He, who comes to the aid of the good nature. As our sages said, if the Holy One, blessed be He, did not help him, he cannot overcome his evil inclination. The help comes by means of the glow radiated by the divine light, which illuminates the divine soul, that it may gain the upper hand and mastery over the folly of the fool and evil nature, in the manner of the excellence of light over darkness, as stated above. Now, exactly, and this is, I want to tell you a few things that I learned also from my brother. He did an awesome Facebook Live, and I want to share this with you. So first, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to try to be quick. I want to end on time. So this is in the times of the Romans. I think it was the Romans or the Greeks. I'm not sure. The Romans wanted to enter the temple, the holy temple. So they didn't want to, get in. They wanted to see what's going to happen if someone enters the temple, someone impure. So they sent this Jew who was, a traitor. So they sent this Jew inside and said, take whatever you want. We just want to see what's going to happen to you. Take whatever you want and you can take it for yourself. Just steal it. He goes in and he takes a big candelabra. They said, wait. I know, you're Jewish. We know that. But candelabra is too expensive. Go in and take something else. He said, I can't go. They're like, what do you mean you can't go? He said, I can't. I can't go. I can't do it. He said, you just stole 2 minutes ago. You just stole a candelabra. What do you mean you can't do it? Go it again. And basically, he just couldn't do it. And they started torturing him. And he said, oi. And they said, what was his pain from? The Medrash says he was pained by the fact that he disappointed God by the fact that he went in and stole the candelabra. How is it possible that the first time he had no problem going in and stealing the candelabra, and the second time he couldn't do it? The answer is because the first time he went in, the light of the temple affected the light inside his soul, the light of his soul, and therefore he couldn't go back. So what we need to do is immerse ourselves, jump into the light, a lot of light. I want to finish with, so how do we know? How do we know what's the right thing to do? So there's 4 answers. The first thing is, usually, what's easier is very often that's the wrong answer. What's easier, and usually what's right is a little bit harder. Second thing is, look at what the Torah says. Very often, the Torah has what to say. And therefore, if the Torah clearly says you shouldn't do this, then you shouldn't do that. Third is, that's why the Rebbe instituted to have a rabbi. It's called a mashpia. A rabbi or someone that you respect that can give you, that is not biased, is not you, because deciding by yourself, sometimes it's very hard because you're biased. So therefore, it's very good to have someone else help you. And another thing is to know that if anything stops you from doing something good, then you know that's the wrong thing. Anyways, I want to finish with the whole coronavirus thing, and that is that just like a father, a parent, when he has to punish his child did something stupid. You want to punish him. You don't want to punish him so he's not going to do it again. Punish him to show him, who's boss. You want to lift him up. Apparently he's weak. He fell and he did a mistake. He wants to be uplifted. You want him to grow. That's why you give him something to grow. So the same thing, God is not punishing us. God is not trying to test us how strong we are. God wants us to grow from this. God wants us to grow. So let's find out from our friends, from the rabbi, from the Torah, how can we grow from this? So you said a beautiful example. This has given us an opportunity to change and bring light. The environment is definitely cleaner. First time in China that they see the blue sky. So it's all good stuff. The next thing I want to say is, as human beings, we're very different than angels. Angels are robots. They can't change. They don't fail, but they don't change. They don't grow. Human beings, we are unique because we are challenged, because we fail, we make mistakes, we try to succeed, and we don't even succeed fully. But that's what is unique about us. So therefore, don't feel bad that you were worried. The fact that you're worried is because you're human. That's how God made you. So therefore, don't feel bad. Don't focus on that. Focus on how can we become stronger because of this. I think we're definitely on the right track. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Be well.